And there are three parts that I'm going to talk about. There is more, but these are the three parts that I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about acute fatigue, overreaching, and then overtraining. So they are basically 3 stages of fatigue on a spectrum. Now you can look these up. So, because sometimes what I get accused of is not understanding the science. But that's all I'm explaining. I read it in a book, I say it on a podcast episode, and then I'm getting told I don't know anything, I don't know science, I don't know this, and I don't know that. And it's just a little bit bizarre. And the only thing I can put it down to is the strength meme that is sort of going through our culture at the moment is so powerful that if anyone comes up against it, you immediately get sort of told that you don't know what you're talking about. So, acute fatigue, what's that? When you perform a set and you feel the burn and your muscle performance deteriorates, that is known as acute fatigue. So it's the immediate fatigue that you feel, acute fatigue. Then you get this thing called overreaching. Now, overreaching, so acute fatigue is within the set, and you could also put it sort of at the end of the set as well, because your body has an acute fatigue. Now, overreaching is a slightly more extended fatigue, so it would last a few days, possibly a week. And what you do, now this can be done intentionally to get a greater supercompensation afterwards. So if it's done intentionally, you get a greater supercompensation, so you have to recover better and more, and then you get a greater supercompensation. And then what you do is you then train again when you get the supercompensation to sort of enhance the performance again. If you do it unintentionally and you just keep fatiguing your body becomes fatigued, and then it becomes more prone to injury. This is how I'm saying, so people are overreaching and potentially overtraining themselves into a low back injury. Now, I'm sort of redefining what fatigue and recovery is in that respect. Because what most people think is if they go to the gym in the morning, do a hard session and then sit at a desk all day, they think that's recovery. It is up to a point, but it isn't proper recovery. That's a different conversation for another time. So we've got this thing called overreaching, and then we've got overtraining. Now with overreaching, you start to get signs and symptoms. One is like a low energy. One is increased muscle soreness. Another is like increased fatigue after the session or in the preceding days after the session. Then we come on to overtraining. So this is more of a condition with more signs and symptoms that last longer. So it's a bit like it's a continuation of overreaching, and it can last for a period of time, and then the performance of the body drops for a period of time, and you're more susceptible to injury, you're more irritable, more prone to like mood swings and things like that. More prone to illness as well because your immune system's down. All these types of things. So that's what those are. So with regards to myself, now when I was 14 and had that back injury, I didn't exercise. I played sport and I went to school and I did what was called sticking up, which is the job that I had at the time when I had my first back spasm, which is when you're at the bottom of a skittle alley, which is very similar to a 10-pin bowling alley. And instead of the machine putting the pins back up, I put them back up. So I was bending over, putting them back up, and my back went. So I had overreached, I had fatigued my tissues, and they failed. It wasn't anything to do with how strong my back was. It was because I overreached. And therefore, my back failed. And I'm going to talk about the strengthening part, because what people will say now is, yeah, but if you had a stronger back, it wouldn't have failed. That's fine, I understand that. And I'll explain that at the end.